Hey guys, welcome back to episode number 3. Today we are going to make our plugin smarter and you will feel joyous to work in it. Today we are going to add a task runner, or more precisely if I say, today we will add a task manager for our plugin. And for this we are going to use Grunt. Now there are a lot of tools out there similar to Grunt like Gulp, Browsify, Webpack, Rollup and so on. But I personally like to use Grunt in my every projects. So today in this video I will show you how you can install Grunt CLI in your local machine and use it in your project as your advantage. So let's begin. Now in order to use Grunt in your project you must have Node.js installed in your local machine. Now installing Node.js is a pretty straightforward thing. If we go to the nodejs.org/en/download, we will find some options and we can choose according to our operating system. So if you're using Windows, then you can choose from here according to your bit 32 or 64. You can just download and install it. It's a pretty straightforward thing. But after installing it, what you need to do, let's say you installed your project in let's say localhost program files. In my case it is program files, and if you can see it is Node.js. So in this folder if you find node.exe, we can copy this path and search for the environment variable and hit enter. Click on environment variables and you can search in user variables or you can search in system variables. Let's search in system variables. Click on edit. Now if you can see that I have already added as an environment variable program file /node.js, you need to add your path here so that you can use Node.js as a command in your command line. So if you can do that, you are good to go. And then if you go to the code editor and open your command integrated command line, if I search for, or if I write node --version and hit enter, I can see that our node version is v12.13.1. so if it shows a version number, then you're good to go and you're sure that your Node.js has been installed correctly. Now if you've done that successfully, the next step is to go to gruntjs.com/getting started. Now here there are some instructions that how you can install Grunt in your local machine. Here you can see there is a command line npm install -g. -g is for the global installation and Grunt CLI. Now this thing is required because if you want to use Grunt into the command line, then you need to install the Grunt CLI. So what you need to do is to go to your command line and just write npm I for install -g for global, and you can write grunt-cli and you can hit enter. Now I already have installed Grunt CLI, that is why it is not installing. So if for the first time when you install, it will install correctly. So for the check, I can show you if I do like grunt-version and hit enter. I typed it wrong. Let's do it again. Grunt version, and if we hit enter, it will say Grunt CLI version 1.3.2 that I am using. So if we can do that, then we are good to go with the Grunt integration in our plugin. So let's head over into the code editor and close our integrated terminal. And let's reopen and clear it. Alright. So now let's begin installing our Grunt into our plugin. So the first task is to initialize a package.json file. So let's do npm init and hit enter. Now it will ask some questions about the project setup into the package.json. So the package name, my Elementor widget, we can keep it. The version 1.0.0, we can keep it too. The description, let's say test Elementor widget plugin, hit enter. Entry point index.js, we do not need that, but let's generate it now. We can remove it later. Test command, we do not need. Git repository, no. Keywords, no. Author, let's say John Doe. License, let's say MIT. And it is showing us the summary of it. Is this okay? Yes. So our package.json has been created. Now we can remove just this main comment here. So this is the package that we have generated from the npm init command. Now let's clear it. Now I'm going to copy and paste a command line so that you do not need to see that what I'm typing. So let's copy and paste it here. This is the command that this is the packages that we gonna need in terms of using Grunt into our plugin. So what I have done here, npm install save -tab, that means we are gonna install all of these packages as a dev dependency, not for the project dependency. And we're using Grunt contrib clean for cleaning the stuffs, Grunt contrib compress for compressing, concat for concating, Grunt contrib copy for copying the files, Grunt contrib css min for minifying the css, uglify for uglifying the js, Grunt watcher in terms of watching the css and the js files. When changes, we are going to watch it, so we do not need to run the Grunt again and again. And finally Grunt wp -n for internationalization. So if we hit enter, it's going to install all the packages as a dev dependency in our system. So let's wait for some time. Alright guys, so as you can see, our packages has been added into our projects, and if you can see, there is extra folder node modules. And if we open the package.json and scroll down a bit, let's close this integrated terminal. If you can see that dev dependency object has been added, and all the stuffs that we have tried to install has been installed successfully. Now the next step is to create a grunt file.js file. So let's say grunt file.js. As you can see, the icon has been changed. So this is the file in where we are gonna incorporate our every task that we are gonna perform for our plugin. So let's begin with use strict, and let's say module.exports equal to function, and let's pass the grunt as a parameter. Grunt. Alright, so this is the function that we're going to export from there. Let's take a var and name it package, and let's do grunt.file.readJSON, and we are going to read the package.json file. Now what this line will do, this line will read the package.json file and store everything into the pkg variable. So the next thing is to initialize the grunt config. So let's do grunt init config, and it's a function. Inside that, it's gonna take some objects. The first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna set up our folder directories. So settings of the directories. So let's do dir and it's an object. First one is the dist. So let's do assets dist. Remember, we want our dist folder into the assets so that we can generate everything in the dist. And the source is obviously assets slash source. Alright. So now the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna minify the CSS files. So CSS min, and it's gonna take an options, and let's do source map to true. So we have the source map, and let's take another parameter root. Spell will be root. Now let's define the targets, and inside that let's include the files, and here we will define the files that we want to compress. So the way we can define this, like this, we can say dir. Now the dir is the variable, that object that we have defined here. So we can say dir.dist in order to associate this location, and dir to source in order to associate this location. So dir.dist and css slash dot main.css, and we define it with an array, so that what we are trying to do, inside this array, whichever file is included here, it's gonna compress and stored into the public.main.css into the dir.dist slash css slash public.main.css. That means the dir.dist, this represents the asset slash dist, and then we will go to the css and slash public.main.css. Now what we want to add is from the source. So we can do like dir.source and then css slash public dot I guess public.css it is. In the css it's public.css. So this file will be minified and stored into the dist slash css or public.main.css file. So that's done with the CSS minification. Now let's add a comma here. Now let's move into the Minify JS files. And here we will say uglify and options. It's a mangled false and source map to true, so that we can have the source map to true, and we'll define my target. And the files we want is or are similarly from the dirs.dist, which should be percentage, and then js slash public.main.js, and we also provide an array here so that we can pass multiple if we need. Now similarly dir source and then js/public.js. So here we have done what we have done. We grab the public.js and we will uglify it and store it into the dir.dist/js/public.min.js. Now the next one we want to add is the watcher. The watcher, what will do watcher is if we change anything or whatever we define the watcher, it will watch the changes. If it changes, then it will run the grunt task automatically again. So let's do a watcher, and we want to watch the CSS changes and the files. We want to check is whether those things are changed or not. We'll say there's source and inside CSS and inside every CSS file. Now this will what this will do is this will search for every CSS file inside this CSS folder, and if any of the .css file has been changed, then it will run the watcher. So another thing we need to define that what task it should perform with this file when he finds out. So we want to perform the CSS min task. So now that's done for the CSS. Now for the scripts. Now for the scripts, we want similar thing. We want to check the dir.source. As we always work on the source, so we just need to watch the source. So similarly, for every JS file that is inside the JS, if anyone changes, then it should perform a task, and the task is uglify. All right. So the next one we want is to create a port file in order to internationalize, or generating a port file for the internationalization. So let's do that. Generate port file. So we can say make port and target options domain path, and the domain path basically the folder in where we want to incorporate our port file. So we have already created a languages folder, so we want to identify, or we want to show the path to this one. So let's say languages, and the port file name should be our text domain name. So port file name is my Elementor widget. Now the next one is the type. Now it has several types. One of them is WP plugin, and you can use like WP theme, but we're developing plugins, so in this case it should be WP plugin. So we are done with the make port also. The next one that I want is to when we build our project, we want to build our project through this Grunt as well, and we want to build our project in a folder named build. But before building every time, we want to clean the folders. So clean the build folder. Alright, so what we want to do, we want to say clean and main, we want to clean the build folder. Alright, the next thing is the next thing we want to do is to copy in order to build the project. So we need to copy whole project into the build folder and then build it. So let's say copy the files into the build folder. So let's say copy and main and src. Now it's an array, not scr, src. I'm gonna copy the sum of the code from here because it will be hard to type. And here with this command we are saying that we want to copy all, and if we place this exclamatory sign, that means we do not want those files. So we want all except these ones. Alright, so the next thing is the destination in where we want to copy it. So the destination is the build folder. Alright, the next thing we want to do is to compress everything. Now we have cleaned the build folder, we copied everything. Now the next step should be compress everything and store it into the build folder. So let's say compress everything and to build into build folder. So let's say compress and main, not the, it should be main, and then the options mode will be zip. We want to zip everything, and archive, and the archive should be the build folder and the project name, my Elementor widget, I should say, and then the version, and we want the package version from the package dot version and dot zip. Now this is coming from the package.json version, this one. So package.version means we are using this value from here. Now the next thing is expand, set it to true, CWD, and the CWD should be build, and the next one is the source that we're gonna copy, and the source is actually everything from inside and outside, and the dist is basically our folder name. So in this case, my Elementor widget. The last thing in terms of Grunt configuration we need is the adding the text domain that we have, or replacing the text domain throughout the plugin. So we're going to generate text domain name. So we can say add text domain. Alright, so the options is the text domain, and the text domain name is my Elementor widget, and we want to update domain if we need any time, then we can update domain, but for now we will keep this same because we do not need to update the domain. Now it is very useful when you already have specified your text domain name, but for some reason now you want to change it throughout the plugin, but it will be very painful if you do it manually, but it will be very easy. With a single line of command you can update your every text domain name within a second. So let's say my Elementor widget is my current text domain name, but for some reason you want to change it with something else, so that you can put your update domain names here, and if you can run the command, you will be able to change in your each and every file. So that is very helpful if you need it. Now for the target, let's copy it. For the target, we want every PHP file to target or within any directory, but we do not want into the node modules or the test units. Now that's done with the configuration. I know it's a lot of stuffs, but hey, it is worth it when you are using it. So this is done with the init config. Now let's initialize the load the npm task of the Grunt, so that we can use it, or we can make those ready in terms of using those things. So let's do load npm tasks. Now let's do Grunt and load npm tasks, and the first one, let's put Grunt wp i18n, should be dash here. So this is the first package that we are loading, and the second one is Grunt Cli, and the next one we can use copy. Next one is compress. Next one is css min. Next one is uglify, and the next one is Grunt watcher. So that's done with the npm loading. Now let's register the tasks. So register the tasks. So we can say Grunt register task. So now we are registering the tasks. So our first task name is the default. This is the name or command we are going to use, and when we type Grunt default, we want to run some tasks. The first one is clean. So with this we will clean the build folder. If it is exists, then we can remove it. So for every task run, we just delete the previous build. So next one is the css main, so that we want to minify all the css files, and then the uglify, so we can uglify the JS, and finally we can run the watcher. So what it will do when we write Grunt default, first it will clean the build folder and remove it, then it will minify every CSS, then minify or uglify every JS, and then it's gonna start watching it. When something changed, it's gonna run the task again and again. So the next task we want to create is is release. So what release task will do, it will generate the pod file. So when we want to release the, let's say release the plugin, we want to generate the pod file. And the next one is the text domain. If in case we want to update the domain, we can use this command. So we can say add text domain. Now the final task that I'm going to write is the zip file that we are going to generate in order to, when we just finish the task and we want to upload it, or we want to upload our project, we want a zip file. So the first task is to clean it again. If it is exists, then we just want to clean it. Then css min, then uglify, and then copy everything, and then compress it. So what we are doing, we are just cleaning the build folder. If it is exists, we want to delete every previous data, and then minify the css, uglify the js, copy everything, and finally we compress and build it into the build directory. So that is it. That is the end of the coding part. I know it's a lot of things going on, but let's test what we have done so far. So let's begin with this command grunt default. So let's open our integrated terminal. Let's clean everything. Hopefully everything will work nicely. Finger crossed. So let's do grunt default. Now before hit enter, let's explain what it will do. So it will, if there is a build folder, it will remove it, but right now there is no build folder, so you cannot see it. It will minify css. Now what css min do, when it will minify, it will create a dist, inside a dist folder it will create a css folder, and it will create public.min.css. Similarly uglify will generate js folder, and it will create public.min.js, and it will start watching. So let's hit enter. Voila. As you can see, it is saying that it created the one css file, also a source map, one js file, also a source map, and it is watching. It is waiting for the changes. So let's go into the dist folder. As you can see, there's two new folder has been added, css, and if you can see, there is public.min.css, and the map has also been added. Similar into the js folder, it is also created two folders. So we have verified the css min and uglify, and watcher is running. So let's verify that one too. So let's go to the source. Remember, we do not touch anything into the dist. So let's go to the source, and let's write a css. Let's say display none, and hit save. And I want to keep your eye on this command line. So when we hit save, as you can see, it is watching. It is just run automatically. So it should generate the code into the dist public.min.css. As you can see, this has been added here. So now it is doing everything automatically. Now let's check into the js file as well. So let's go to the public.js, and let's just add the basic thing here. Function $, and let's do jQuery. jQuery, and let's strict, let's say console.log. So from my plugin. So if we hit save, as you can see, it is running automatically again. If we save it again, and let's check into the public.min.js, as you can see, it has also been added here. So our public.js has been working nicely too. So let's remove those things. Remove also this one. So we have verified so far 3 things. Now the next thing we are going to verify is the release command. So what it should do, it should make a pot file into the languages folder. So let's Control C for the close the waiting. Let's clear. Let's say Grunt release and hit enter. Sorry, should be Grunt release and hit enter. And as you can see, it has been added. So let's go to the language and you can see my Elementor widget has been added. So it has also been verified. Now the next thing is the text domain. So now we can test it, but we will not see any effect on it because our text domain and the update domain name is same. So we do not want to change it right now. So let's skip that. Now the final thing that we want to run is the grunt zip. So let's try it again. So let's clear it. Grunt zip. Now what it should do, it should create a build folder that is not exist here right now. So it should create a new folder, and the folder name should be build, and inside the build folder the whole project should be copied, and there should be a zip file that gonna perform by the compress task. So let's hit enter. Again I misspelled it. Should be grunt zip. Hit enter, and everything is running. So let's wait for some moment. So as you can see, there is a folder called build, and inside the build folder, as you can see, everything has been added. But I think there is a problem because I am seeing two build folders, and I find out that I should put a slash here. So let's remove this manually for now and try it again. So let's expand our integrated command line a bit. Let's do the grunt zip again and hit enter and wait for some time. And this time I can see the single folder build folder has been added. Now here you can see the whole project has been copied here, and my Elementor widget and the version also has been added here. So the build or the grunt zip has also been working nicely. Now if we clear it and if we hit the grunt default again, it should clean up the build folder and start our task again. As you can see, it deletes the build folder and it is start watching. So whenever we are working in this project into the future, we just run the grunt default and we're gonna start working. Because why it is important? Because if we do not do this, if we change CSS or JS file, you will see no changes. So be careful when you start using grunt in your project. You must remember that before changing any CSS or JS files, you need to run the grunt default and it should start watching, and then you can perform your things. So that is it. I know there are a lot of stuffs going on, but hey, it worth the efforts. It makes our development life easier. Once you are getting familiar with it, you feel very comfortable with it. So this is all for this episode. In the next episode, I will start creating some cool widgets. Till then, stay home and stay safe, and don't forget to subscribe the channel. Thank you.